before I would terminate them. And
How'd that work out?
he did let me. He did let me do that, and I met with the team, and I made a mistake right there, because when I allowed them to vent, and I allowed them to tell me, what was going on and what they felt was needed, and they kind of enjoyed that a little too much. And
In some way, it sets expectations too, right? They expect you to address all those things.
yeah, and it was very negative. It was very negative, and I wasn't quite prepared for that level of animosity. And so I had to get some help to kind of get them to calm down and say, okay, well, that was the past, now let's move forward, and let's go with a clean slate. Whatever write-ups are in the record, whatever's there now, it's not, we're gonna start from fresh from today,
Yeah.
and you're gonna have every opportunity, to move forward. In the end, I did end up terminating about 4 people, but the rest of the staff, 4 out of 15. And we moved forward, and it took a lot of work. We did overnighters, we did all kinds of things to get the department in shape, and it took like another 6 months for them to fix. I mean, I had to really push and really be quite vocal about getting the planogram fixed, because the volume was a real deal.
So what did your boss say when you solved it in a different way after 30 days or 60 days or whatever?
You know what? He didn't care. Frankly, he didn't care. He wanted the department running right, and he wanted the product. He wanted the floor looking the way it needed to look. He wanted it organized. He wanted it done. He didn't care how I did it.
Sure.
So.
Good. Just one quick one. This is a bit different, but I'm sort of thinking about the other job now. You've had a couple of jobs, but let's say we went the way of an entry-level manager job instead of the grow job.
Okay.
How would you tackle your first 90 days? So Monday you start at this company that you know very little about. We give you your badge and say you're responsible for compensation and benefits for Florida, just sort of the job we're looking at. What's your thought process of how you organize your first 90 days?
Well, the first thing I need to do is get to know the people. Is there anybody reporting to me or not? If so, I'm going to need to get to know them, understand what they do, and understand what they need from me. I need to get to know the people that I support. I need to get very involved with operations. I'm going to roll up my sleeves and find out who are my operators, and start to establish those relationships. And I want to understand from them what are their expectations from me. Also, what works best for them. Some people like meetings, like face-to-face, some people phone calls, some people text messaging. So I want to understand what mode of communication is the most efficient and preferred by my business partners. I want to understand any of the major issues that are going on in compensation and benefits. So, what are we looking at? Are we looking at updating our compensation plan? Are we looking at revamping a performance management system? Are we looking to say, we need to look for ways to reduce our payroll or reduce our costs for total comp and benefits? So I need to understand, what's going on in terms of budget, what are the challenges in terms of comps and benefits?
Priorities.
Right, and then once I understand all of those factors, I'm going to go to my boss and say, okay, here's what's the priority here, and get some direction in terms of what they want me working on, and then go from there.
Good. Promised you 6 questions, but I asked you 6, so I got nothing else.
Okay.
But do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. one of the challenge that I see across that's going to impact a number of industries, including an organization like DHL Logistics, is the cost of fuel. Obviously, in order to transport your goods and to provide your services, fuel is a major factor for you. So I'd like to understand, and I noticed that there's a lot of activity where the organization is trying to go green and trying to be more efficient, but frankly, your trucks, your planes, they're gonna run on gas. So,
We got a lot of it.
yeah, I'm sure the fleet is very large. So I'd like to understand, what.
Does this business have a future?
Well, I'm sure the business has a future, but how are you going to adapt in terms of the fuel? I mean, we saw gas prices go to over $4 a gallon, and it came back down. But 5 years from now, it could be at $6 a gallon or more. So, in light of those changes, and they
What are we
could be
doing?
dramatic changes within a very short time frame. So, how is the organization dealing with that, and how are you trying to position yourself long-term?
Well, I think there's two pieces, the internal and the external piece. Internally, we think we're ahead of the curve on the greening of our company, but it's still really early days. And frankly, I represent 100 customers, but we have tens of thousands. But if you take my 100, I'd say there's probably 8 that are really, really business plan serious about carbon emissions. The rest all have it in their mission statement. The board talks about it once a year on an offsite. But that's changing. Next year, that 8 will be 16, and the following year it'll be 25. So we have to prepare for that. Most of, we're what we call an asset-light company. So we don't own most of our airplanes or trucks. We manage partners that do. So we have the challenge that we have to set standards and expectations for partners. So we probably run 350, 400 airplanes a day. Of those, we probably own 100. So, what is Hong Kong Air? What is Air China? What is Korea Air doing to green their airplanes? How are they upgrading their fleet? What kind of carbon emissions what are their carbon emission plans? So we have an objective to reduce our carbon emission by 25% over 5 years. So it's really ambitious across each of our business units. So internally, we're pretty focused on this. Externally, we're heavily involved in legislative stuff. So, being the largest logistics company in the world, we think we have to lend our weight around what is our positioning on carbon labeling of consumer products? What is our position? Do we think it should be a free market environment or a legislated environment? Should companies be forced by governments and regulated by governments what their carbon emissions are and how those are traded, or should the free market take hold around that? That has a lot of impact in how we manage our business. We prefer a free market environment because we think we'll be the most efficient, and therefore our competitors will have to drop their costs or their carbon emission base to our levels. And if they can't, it's going to cost them more money, which makes us even more competitive. And we also believe that we're an international business, so if every country were allowed to legislate its own carbon emissions, you can imagine how hard that would be to manage for us. We operate in 225 countries. So externally, we're spending quite a lot of time with customers on helping them. So, most of our customer supply chains were designed, how they move their goods were designed around $38 to $40 a barrel. That's how when customers evaluate, how fast do I need to get my inventory to the store shelf, and where do I source from, and all that, when they think about that, our position is that they think that's $40 a barrel. That's how they looked at it. Today it's $70 a barrel, closed today at $69 a barrel. When fuel was at $4 a gallon, it was $125 a barrel. So you can think about when GE or Microsoft or Dell computers are moving their goods from China to the US, they created a supply chain thinking that fuel was going to be $40 a barrel. And now it's $120. It's totally upside down. So now they're thinking about, should I keep my factories in China or should I bring them back closer, because transportation costs has just quadrupled, and therefore my whole supply chain cost has changed. So that's the bit, to me that's much more interesting. I think we'll green ourselves and we'll be leaders because we're a very innovative company. But for me, I spend all my time thinking about how can I help our customers solve this dilemma. That's a really big issue. So I think we're really well positioned around that.